In this video, we're going to be talking about the anatomy and functions of animal and plant cells and the difference and comparison between these two different cells. So first, we're going to be talking about the animal cells. Animal cells are present in our body because we are part of the animal kingdom. So the outer layer of the cell is known as the cell membrane. The cell membrane is a semi-permeable layer. So what that means is that it keeps toxins out while allowing things like proteins and other messages to come in. This gooey substance located inside of the cell would be cytoplasm. So then we're going to be moving on to each of the different parts of the cell. So these parts of the cell are known as organelles. The most important organelles would be the nucleus and DNA. So the nucleus acts like an office or an outside layer from the DNA, so it is able to protect the DNA. You can think of DNA as the boss or the most important part of the entire cell. It is the one that commands the other organelles and makes sure they're doing their job. So DNA sends messages to these organelles in a form as known as RNA. However, these organelles are not able to read or exactly understand what the RNA because they kind of speak in a different language. Because of this language barrier, we have ribosomes or decoders. Basically, these ribosomes located over here, they're the ones that decode the message and turn them into a language in which each of the organelles are able to understand or process. So then they turn the RNA into the decoded message or proteins. So let's say if the protein has to get from one part of the cell to the other part of the cell really fast, we have a system which is called the ER or the highway. It gets from one part to the other part in a really fast time. So if you're in danger, you can rely on the ER. So we're going to talk about the vacuole. The vacuole or the warehouse stores nutrients that are needed for the entire cell to survive. Next is the Golgi body. This is like a packaging station. It basically takes the proteins and puts them in groups and tries to communicate with the other cells, so it's able to know what to do exactly based on the surrounding environment. So the Golgi body also takes in other proteins as well. Next would be the mitochondria. So this would be like the energy creator. So if the cell is not able, let's say there's not enough nutrients in the vacuole, or the cell is not able to create the amount of work it needs. So if it needs more energy, you can count on the mitochondria. The mitochondria uses nutrients in the body and changes it into energy. This energy is used to breathe, grow, and reproduce. Next is known as the lysosome, or also known as the garbage disposal. So in our digestive video, we talked about enzymes and their process. Basically, enzymes break down things. Here, the lysosome stores the enzymes and also breaks down the waste in the cell. So these are the parts and functions of the animal cell. So now that we talked about the animal cell, we're going to move on to the plant cell. So instead of having just a cell membrane, like a semi-permeable wall, it also has a cell wall. This is like a double layer of protection, and this is because as animals we are able to move to warmer climates and it is easier for us to adapt. However, for trees, well, they don't have legs, so they can't move. So to be able to survive to their environment, they have a thicker layer of protection. So we also have the cytoplasm, which is located in this, and the organelles located in these cells are exactly the same except for one organelle known as the chloroplast. This contains a chemical known as chlorophyll, which takes the sunlight carbon dioxide and water to be able to create its own food. So in the plant cell, we also have nucleus, the DNA. It creates its own messages through RNA. The ribosomes then decode these messages and send it to the other organelles. Meanwhile, they decode the RNA into proteins. If the proteins need to get from one place to the other place faster, they use the ER. Next, we're going to move on to the vacuole. You can notice from these two vacuoles, the vacuole is smaller, but this vacuole is bigger. The reason why is because we are able to consume the amount of food we get like that we find. But here, the food doesn't come all the time, so it needs to be able to store more amounts of nutrients. So hence the bigger vacuole. This stores in nutrients and water that the plant needs. Next would be the mitochondria, which is energy creators. If the cell is not able to produce enough work, then what it does is that it relies on the mitochondria. Then is the lysosome, or garbage disposal. This handles all the waste in the cell. So these are the different organelles in the plant cell, and these are the organelles in the animal cell. So the structure is very similar, except in the plant cell, they have a cell wall, an extra layer of protection, and a new organelle known as chloroplast, which allows it to create its own food. And also, the vacuole is way more bigger. Notice that since these are very similar, they're part of a bigger family known as the eukaryotes. And these two cells are eukaryotic cells. And if you're wondering, a way to determine between a prokaryotic and a eukaryotic cell is based on the nucleus. Eukaryotic cells have a nucleus while prokaryotes don't.